Hi friends, we have done all the lessons for class 11. So today we begin with class 12. The first lesson is the last lesson. Isn't it? The last lesson by Alphonse Daudet. Now as you can see, we have the characters appearing today in this section of the lesson are schoolboy Franz, blacksmith workshop, and M. Hamel, the French teacher. These are the three characters appearing in today's section of the lesson. And now you see, as usual, we will, as I used to do with class 11, for class 12 also I am going to follow the same method, communicative method of teaching. That's first we will explain all the expressions and words and so on, and then we will go to the main points, and a third part would be questions, and only after that we will enter into the lesson proper. Okay, so here we begin. In great dread of scolding. Dread means fear. Scolding means angry words. You get, very often we get scolding from our parents, our elders and so on. They speak angry words to us for some mischief or something that we have done. So, in great dread of scolding means he was afraid that his teacher will scold him. That's it. See, every morning I get up in great dread of scolding from my parents. That is because as a boy I used to do a lot of mischief. That's maybe the reason. Then secondly, spending the day out of doors. Out of doors in the open, not in the school but in the out of doors. Spending the day. That is, very often students, when they get a holiday, they spend the day out of doors. Out of doors means in the open. So they go for a short picnic, or it can be for a film or anything like that. Much more tempting, means attractive here. Much more tempting. Going to school or going for a film, which is more tempting to you? Going for a film, isn't it? Yes. So, students, going for a film is much more tempting to students than going to school. The strength to resist means strength means a strong mind. I could resist means I could prevent. So resist, to prevent. Resistance, no, that is. So I had the strength of mind to resist all temptations. I have the strength of mind to resist all temptations. The drift means the movement. For example, drifting clouds means clouds moving. Drifting soldiers means drifting army or battalion. That means movement of. So very often we see clouds drifting in the sky. Called after me means somebody calling you from behind. So yesterday when I left home, my mother called after me and said that I forgot to take my tiffin box. Called after me. And all out of breath means panting. That is out of breath means. So, first time when I ran the race, I was all out of breath. Racing, no, R-A-C-I-N-G. Then repeated in unison, means together in one voice. We saw, you remember, no? When you are doing in nursery, no? Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Then all the people together will say Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, like that. So that is repeating in unison. We can see when you go near a school, or nursery school for that matter, you will see children repeating nursery rhymes in unison. Means as one block. A great bustle means sorry, all out of. Yes, the next one is a great bustle, disturbance. You can see a sound, noisy. When you say, when you are sitting in the railway station, what you do is that you witness a great bustle. Because people are going, moving from one platform to another and all those things, carrying things. ruler rapping on the this is ruler, rapping on the table. So very often teachers, when they teach rhythmically, they will tap the ruler on the table like this. Humpty, Dumpty, like that. And then you have got counted on the commotion. Counted here means, commotion means noisy situation. Counted means I thought it will help me. See, I count on your help. That means I depend. I count on your help means I depend on your help. See, counted on commotion means, when you are late to enter a classroom, then you would think that if there is plenty of noise, so it is sneaking. That is counted on commotion. So very often, latecomers, they count on the commotion that will be prevailing in the classroom. And now, how I blushing. Bridegrooms, you are seeing brides blushing. Bridegrooms don't blush, but brides blushing. When they stand in the church for the ceremony, marriage ceremony, brides blush. Once upon a time, these days I don't know whether they are blushing or not. You have no idea. See? A feeling of shame and some inhibition and all those things, that is blushing. Now, after we have gone through the expressions and you know how to make sentences or use them in sentences of your own. For example, you can see now much more tempting, something that you can do every day. So, what happens is that going for a picnic is much more tempting than going to doing homework. Which is more tempting? Mobiling is much more tempting than doing homework. Right? Like that. Spending the day out of doors. Everybody wants to spend the day out of doors on Sundays. And the great dread of scolding. In fact, every child is always living in great dread of scolding. Because they make mistakes or they do some mischief and all those things. Strength to resist. We should have the strength to resist bad temptations. Called after me. My friends called after me saying that I forgot to take my umbrella, all out of breath. So I ran home all out of breath because I heard that my father was sick. Then a great bustle. In marketplace you will find great bustle. Repeated in unison. Small children repeat rhymes in unison. Ruler rapping on the table. Teachers usually rap the ruler, or it can be a stick also, on the table. Count on the commotion. So that is, you thought that the commotion will help you. So the count. Very often what happens when you are late or something and the hall is full, house full. Then when you enter, you might think that if there is a commotion, then it will be alright. See, it happens like that now. Theatre is full. You are maybe the last one to enter. Then when the film is on, you have no problem. Otherwise, all the people will be looking and you will be blushed. Okay, that's all. I think it's clear now. Now, today what are we going to see? Here is a boy, school boy, that is France. He is unwilling to school. He doesn't want to go to school. And then with a warm and bright morning. The morning is very warm and bright. There is a very brief description of that in this lesson. The bulletin board. On the way he sees the bulletin board and a lot of people are standing around it. They are reading something, some bad news. And then the school and the surrounding classroom all quiet as Sunday morning. So much to his much against his expectation, he thought that the school there will be bustle, great bustle and commotion and all those things. But everything was like a Sunday morning. Sunday morning, what is the peculiarity of Sunday morning? Every day you get up at 6 o'clock, Sunday morning you get up at 9 o'clock. Sleeping. Yes. France had to open the door and get in front of everybody, so blushed and frightened. So what happened is that a very calm and quiet school, and the teacher is standing there. And then he wants to get in. He's late, so he was frightened and he blushed. So that is the situation. Now, you have questions here. Questions? Why was Franz in great dread of scolding? He was in great dread of scolding because he did not know participles. And that day, the teacher had said that he would be asking questions on participles. Question 2. Question 2. What? Why did? What? Second question is here. Where is the second question? Why did he think of spending the day out of doors? Franz thought of spending the day out of doors because it was very beautiful morning. It was very beautiful morning. That is the reason. And then you can see calm and quiet, bright. Third question. Where is the third? Why did the people crowd in front of the bulletin board? People crowded in front of the bulletin board because there was some news. All the news would be put out in that bulletin board, or you can say like our notice board, something like that. So people stood around. Something new was there, and so people were standing around and they were reading it. Fourth question: why did the blacksmith tell him? What did the blacksmith tell him? Blacksmith workshop told our friend Franz, who is unwilling to go to school, you don't rush. There's no point in rushing. There's plenty of time. You can go, because the blacksmith knew. He read the bulletin board, the news on the bulletin board, and he just found that that would be the last class for him. Last class where the teacher will be teaching French. Next day they will have to start studying German. And then finally, you should also be reading this. Fifth question will be, why were the school, its surroundings and classroom so quiet as a Sunday morning? Because that was the last class that would be taken by the teacher, the French teacher. And that day he is leaving, so people were calm and quiet. He was not angry and he did not want to teach anything new. That is the reason. People were sitting quiet, students were sitting quiet. And of course they had some, that they felt very sad about the whole thing. And sixth one, why did he blush and was frightened? He means Franz. Why was Franz frightened and why did he blush? Because the class was quite calm and quiet, so he had to enter the class in front of everybody. So he was frightened and he was blushed. So now you got the idea about the whole lesson today. What are the characters, what are the expressions, what are the points, questions we try to answer even without entering into the lesson. So once you read the lesson, you will be able to answer all these questions very fluently. Okay, so here we begin the last lesson. The last lesson is, for us, it is the first lesson by Alphonse Daudet. Daudet, E-T is not pronounced, Daudet. That's all, Daudet. The French, most of the time you will find that the last syllable is silent, Daudet. Calais, C-A-L-A-I-S, but it is pronounced as Calais, C-A, not Calais, like that. And the narrator, that is this boy Franz, who is unwilling to school, he says, I started for school very late that morning and was unwilling, very late that morning, and was in a great dread of scolding, especially because Hamel had said that he would question us on participles, and I did not know the first word about it. That is, he had no idea about participles. He is going to ask the Mr. Hamel, Ms. M. Hamel, the student. Sorry, the teacher had warned them, or even prior notice, that tomorrow I will be asking questions on participles. And this poor man, poor boy, had no idea, absolutely no idea about the participle. First word he doesn't know. That's what he says. For a moment, I thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. I thought like that. Oh, if I enter today, I will get scolding. No, I will be scolded. Some days I will be beaten up also. Therefore, I thought that I will go outdoors. It was so warm, so bright. So why did he feel like that? Because it was warm and so bright, and also he wanted to escape from the participles. That's the reason. The birds were chirping at the end of the woods and in the open field. It says that the back of the sawmill, the Prussian soldiers were drilling. So we found this warm and bright morning. The birds were singing, chirping at the end of the woods, bush, and in the open field. And you also saw the Prussian soldiers were drilling, doing their exercise. It was much more tempting than for the rule for participles, which is much more tempting going spending the day out of doors because it was warm and bright, because here the birds were chirping and also woods and in the open field. Then he says he also saw the Prussian soldiers were drilling, so he thought it is much better to go and spend out of doors. So participles, what participles? I have no idea what it is. He thought like that. And when I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. Bulletin board means on the way there is a town hall, and in front of that there is a bulletin board, notice board. For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. The lost battles, the drift, the orders of commanding officer, and I thought to myself, without stopping, what can be the matter now? So for the last 2 years, he says, everything about battle, there must have been some battle going on between two states, and as you will see later. Well, if you want to know it now, that is between France and Prussia. So here Prussians are one. Prussians, their language is German. And in this case what happens, he says, the bulletin board, because the war was going on, so the bulletin board is news, bad news. Bad news means how many people, how many soldiers died, how much territory they have annexed. So what are the orders of the commanding officer and so on. These things were published in the bulletin board. So I thought, what can be now? Then, as I hurried by as fast as I could go, the blacksmith watcher who was there with his apprentice means training, reading the bulletin, called after him. So the blacksmith, they were friends, blacksmith, and the name of the blacksmith is Watcher. And the boy, they were friends, because probably the blacksmith might have seen him every day going like this late, so he said, and running also. That is the blacksmith said, hey, don't run, there is plenty of time, you go by noon, that will be enough. So he asked, what is the reason? So he said, don't go to so fast, Bub. That is friendly way of calling you, fellow Bub and so on. You will get to your school in plenty of time. Oh, take your time, go slowly, there's no point in rushing. I thought he was making fun of me and reached Hamel's little garden all out of breath. I did not believe him, so I thought that he is misleading me. So I ran as fast as I could and reached Mr. Hamel's little garden. Usually when school began, there was a great bustle and sound which could be heard out in the street. The opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated in unison, very loud, with our hands over our ears like this to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. So these are usually there is a great bustle. The bustle is created by the noise, is created by could be heard outside in the street. So there could be, and why? Because lessons repeated in unison, the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table and closing and opening of desk and not bench, desk and books and all those things. Usually there would be. But now it was all too still. Huh? What is this? Pin drop silence. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen. Counted on this, I told you. I thought that the commotion will help me. Then there is sound, bustling, then opening and closing of desks, the teacher rapping on the table, Then also there is people shouting and calling out and all those things. I thought like that. But now it was all still. And so I was worried. Everybody is calm and good. All the students suppose all of us. Then there's one man is coming late. Then what will you do? All the eyes will be on him. Isn't it? Otherwise, if you are busy with something, you won't bother. Somebody comes in and somebody goes out. That's all. So in this case, it's not like that. So through the window, through the window, I saw my classmates already in their places and Hamel walking up and down with this terrible iron ruler under his arm. Why terrible iron ruler? Probably he might have used this for hitting these people. That's why it's called terrible, isn't it? And then what? I had to open the door and go in before everybody. That's the thing. And then you can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was. Understand? So now, look at these questions once again and then you can see whether you can answer or not. Question 1. Why was Franz in great dread of scolding? Participles. 2. Why did he think of spending the day out of doors? First, we escaped from participles. Secondly, the day was very warm and very bright and the birds were chirping. So beautiful morning. And third, why did the people crowd in front of the bulletin board? People crowded because they were reading news about what was happening there. Just like a kind of public newspaper, you can say. Yes. For what did the blacksmith tell him? The blacksmith told him that there's plenty of time for you, need not hurry up. There's no point in hurrying up. There's plenty of time, but you can go. 4, 5. Why were the school, its surroundings and the classrooms so quiet Sunday morning? Because there's no activity, no teaching. Well, that will be the last class, the last lesson, the last class. Tomorrow you will start German because the Prussians have taken over that part of the country. So Prussians will teach only German, not French. So that will be the last French lesson for them. So the teacher also was very calm and quiet and he did not want to bother the students with the participles. Participles, bye. Why did he blush and was frightened? As he said, you can imagine, I had to open the door and go in before everybody. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. Clear? All the words are explained, main points are there, we have answered questions. Now you can also ask some questions like that. What do you know about the character of Franz? Well, first of all, you can say he is a comparatively lazy fellow. He goes late, he doesn't want to study. That's why he is afraid of. He says, I know a word about participles. Another thing is that he has got a strength of character. How do you know that? Because he says, I can resist this one. Strength to resist. That's the thing. Strength to resist this temptation to spend the day out of doors. So he went. Understand? Then what etc. we said. So that also could be a question from this section of the lesson. What do you know about the schoolboy Franz? He is unwilling to school. Usually he is late. He doesn't want. He is not a serious student. He has no knowledge of participles on which teacher will be asking questions. And then at the same time he has got a very strong character. And plus you can also say he is inhibited. He is an inhibited person because in front of everybody he is blushing and he is frightened to enter the class. Otherwise, because he is worried that all other people will be looking at him. So these are the points that you can say about the character of Franz. So bye, have a nice time. I hope that you have understood everything now. Questions you yourself can make, answers we have made, then explain everything, and so bye, have a nice time, enjoy your life, no participles.